Alright guys, let's start from the front lines review, and here we have the Pokrovsk direction where Ukrainian army continued to take advantage over the Russian one, moving in a counteroffensive near Kotlina and crossing the very important road. And let's check out the wider image here because it's very important for us. By the way, the link for this map you may find in the video description below. It belongs to my Co73 Analytic. He does a very nice review about what is happening on the front lines, and as you see, Ukraine entered the next village, which is, I would say, the part of Kotlina itself. It's just divided by this railroad into two of the parts. And you might check out that the entire village here is in a gray zone, and I guess that Russia is forced now to withdraw their group from those fields and this industrial part of the village. Yeah, for sure this facility was bombed many of the times, but now Russia is still presented there because there are some of the underground places, rooms for Russian soldiers to hide. But there is the high probability for Russians just to be trapped in this place, because Ukraine is attacking from Kotlina village, and one more attack of Ukraine is coming from the east. Yes, this place is still in a gray zone. It's only because those are the open fields, but Ukraine may control this entire area using FPV drones. So Russians in this area, they're in a very bad state. They don't have lots of the options. I would say they're absent for them. They have to withdraw their forces with the losses. And I've told you about this possible variant, I guess, 3 weeks ago, so even for me it was understandable, but not for the Russian command. For them, they're just winning on the front lines. Yes, there are some of the places, we're gonna speak about those in this video, where Russian army definitely advances forward, but just a little. However, Putin said that they have all-around initiative elsewhere, which is total nonsense. And yeah, there was the small press conference of Putin, which he gave to some of the Russian media. Kremlin Rus shared this information with the video itself. The unusual small table for the Russian dictator, but nevertheless he said very important things for us to understand that Russia is not willing to stop this war at all. So Putin suggests to establish a temporary administration for Ukraine because he doesn't see Zelensky or anyone else in Ukraine who holds a legitimate power. So his idea is to call United Nations to form Ukrainian government, a temporary one, and conduct elections in Ukraine. So now you know who is really interested in elections in Ukraine. Also, Putin added that there is no one in Ukraine to sign the peace agreement with. So Putin is really consistent in his rhetorics. And there is absolutely no change since those kind of the peace talks started between the United States and Ukraine and the United States and Russia. Zelensky and the Ukrainian government are definitely the pain in the ass for Putin. And with those kind of the fake negotiations, Putin just tries to reach his own goals. So he is using Donald Trump in his own favor. Well, before Putin stated that there is at least the Ukrainian parliament which has a legitimate power. But now he says that there is no legitimate power at all. So we're not gonna sign anything with the Ukrainian government or president, and Ukraine should conduct elections. It basically means that Russia is not reaching its military goal in Ukraine, otherwise Putin wouldn't be so concerned about changing Ukrainian powers. So Ukraine resists, and that resistance is very strong. One more sign that Putin doesn't want to end the war in Ukraine is that he says that all of the strategic initiative belongs to the Russian army in Ukraine and in the Russian front lines, for example in Kursk and Belgorod. Quote, as I said to you before, we have all of the grounds to state that we're gonna push them and finish them. Putin about Ukraine. Also, Putin said that the Ukrainian government is under influence of Nazis. And once again, he mentioned the Azov battalion. It's kind of strange because Putin released those Nazis himself. I mean, all of the Azov commanders were exchanged for Medvedchuk, a close friend of Putin, who was previously a member of the Ukrainian parliament and the leader of the pro-Russian party till 2022. Yeah, later on he was jailed for the connections with Russia and exchanged. It's kind of interesting, right? Because Ukraine many times was accused for seizing the opposition media or something like that, but even after Russia occupied Crimea and occupied a part of the Donbass, arming some of the separatist forces, still there were pro-Russian parties in Ukraine with Putin's friends in charge. And there was some time that they were even quite popular, but not any longer, because mostly eastern regions who speak Russian and who were pro-Russian oriented, well, some of the percentage of those people, they suffered the most because of the Putin strikes on them, so they now hate Russia, and any kind of the pro-Russian party has absolutely no perspective in Ukraine. And I guess I know why Putin continued to say about the Azov Brigade and Nazis in Ukraine. Well, just in 2024, United States lifted the weapon sanctions on Azov Brigade. So with those statements about Nazis, Putin wants to apply new sanctions on Azov Brigade and many other Ukrainian battalions. He basically wants to convince Trump to apply sanctions once again. It's Putin's second idea if the total ban for Ukrainian weaponry support fails. And we're also going to speak about Greenland today. Putin says that the United States is very serious about the possible annexation of Greenland, but we're going to do it a little later. I just want to jump back to the front lines because I guess that it's very important to check out what is happening out there. Guys, as you know, I try to tell the things on this channel as they are. So here, Ukrainian army had losses. I already told about it. One vehicle was hit by the FPV drone, but here it's not a loss. It's the Ukrainian army advancement. We have the confirmation about it. Just the presence of the Ukrainian vehicle, it is there, it wasn't hit. We have the thermal camera showing us the vehicle. And what is here? Maybe some sort of the drone drops. Let me check it out. And yes, there were some of the drops. The tank was hit there a long time ago and Russian soldiers tried to hide inside, but Ukraine did what it usually does. And this video, well, I watched it just right now. That's the local cemetery, and there were some of the Russian soldiers hiding. They were found by Ukrainian surveillance drones, and Ukraine sent some of the FPV. And there is no more Russian soldiers. I cannot show you that because it's I don't know how to rate it even. We see that Russian army is basically losing its presence in Pokrovsk direction because Ukraine attacks from many of the sides. For now, there are two of the big Ukrainian attack vectors, one from Kotlina and the other one to Solona. And if Ukraine moves ahead to Vovkove, Ukraine potentially may create a huge problem for this entire Russian hump. And that's why Putin lies once again. Wow, what a surprise. So Russia doesn't have a strategic advantage over Ukraine, even though they have more of the resources. And by the way, you can see that Ukraine already may hit Russia really far away from the front lines we're speaking about. In the village of Novopustinka, Russia lost two of the vehicles. Again, it is geolocated and confirmed by OSINT analytics. Moreover, Russia has losses further away from the front lines, and Russia still complains about their main supply hub in Davydov. Sometimes Ukrainian FPV drones also visit Russian positions there. You may see how far Ukrainian drones may fly from the front line, and here Russians just occasionally send their FPV drones and also Lancets. Well, also I have the news from this direction. The Russian convoy tried to break to Andriivka and further in attempt to gain more ground, but it was spotted and kaboomed by Ukrainian FPV drones. We have the confirmation about it. It was shared by one of our commanders who is responsible for this particular spot, so several of the Russian vehicles were kaputted. Absolutely great news for Ukraine. And I guess that the main reason why the Russian assault slowed down in Pokrovsk direction and why the Russian army even loses the ground there is because Ukraine is capable to defeat the Russian supplies in many of the regions of Pokrovsk. My friends, by the way, if you want to support the job that I do here on this channel, you're very welcome to my Patreon. I'll put the link for my Patreon page right in the video description just below. Thank you so much for supporting my motivation. But I agree that Russia tries to gain more success attacking in many of the strange directions, I would say, for example, in Kharkiv region, because Russia didn't put Kharkiv region in their constitution. However, they're very active there. For example, not far away from Kupiansk, recently Russia pushed ahead, taking the fields under control. But before, Ukraine pushed them away towards Kalinovo, so the situation is like plus minus stable there. And yes, some of the moves of the Russian army, even for me, are not understandable. Like, for example, if we go to the Torres direction where Ukrainian army counterattacks, and as you can see, quite successfully, well, Russia decided also to attack, but not at this spot. They moved ahead to Panteleimonovka, taking those fields and entering the village. And yeah, we have the confirmation how Russian army went into that village, so they took the part of it. But I don't understand, like, what's the reason? Why not to send the reinforcements to the direction where you are losing? Why not to try to regain control over Torets? And why to create this kind of useless attack vector? Because here Ukrainian defense is strong. So what's the potential of this attack? Well, maybe I don't know lots of the information about what is happening on the front lines. Maybe generals and Russian generals know more. But as for me, this move is very, very strange by the time Russia is losing forces in Toretsk. And actually here they're under the huge risk to be just trapped. So Russia maybe will have to withdraw the forces from Toretsk. So without those defense lines, I would understand, but here defense of Ukraine, I guess, is strong. Russia just spreads their forces elsewhere, creating those small bites. You may call it a very small cat tactics, but I don't see a smart tactics conducted by Russia so far, especially in Toretsk. You know, they proclaimed that they've took the city on 7th of February, but somehow they start to lose the control here. It means that really nothing is going according to Putin's plan, and that's why he's angry, and that's why he's saying that United Nations should establish some sort of the control over Ukraine, which is pathetic. Even in the Kursk region, Russia is very slow in pushing the Ukrainian army out. Well, it is Ukrainian initiative, after all, to withdraw the forces from the Kursk Oblast. But for the third day consecutive, I don't see any sort of the movement, and in Belgrade, there is also actually no movement. But here Ukrainian Air Force is using aviation gliding bombs to hit the Russian infrastructure, including bridges. So it makes very difficult for Russia to send their reinforcements to the region, but Russia tries. This is Sukhoi 27 of the Ukrainian army, which drops the gliding aviation bombs, JDAMs, which hit the Russian infrastructure. And this is from Kursk region. Ukrainian aviation is in action. Awesome. The only place where Russia is more or less successful is in Katerinovka. They are moving towards that village from this bridgehead, which they created roughly 2 months ago. They've landed their troops across the river and later on established good supply connections, so that's why they expand over here. From all of the directions of Ukrainian front lines except Kursk operation, it's the Russian front line, I would say. So it is the only point where Russia has really a success. Here they expand with quite high pace, but again, there were no villages taken by Russians here, just maybe Ivanivka. But the rest are just fields, tree lines, forest spots and so on. So I wouldn't say that Russia is like truly successful here, but they have more success in this direction compared to any kind of the spot of Ukrainian front lines. About Zaporizhia front lines, Russia was active there for a couple of days, but for the last 24 hours there was no territorial gain by Russians or Ukrainian side. Alright, more about Arctic. Putin stated that definitely Trump is serious about it. I also stated the same, that Trump is serious, damn serious about Greenland, and he might use even American force to take the Greenland by force. In that case, there will be absolutely no difference between Putin and Trump. The world order has already been destroyed mostly by Russia and Trump, so we're coming back to the beginning of the 20th century, that only force matters, and it will create more of the military conflicts around the world, and Europe is also very concerned about it, as well as Greenland. I guess, I don't know if someone watches me from Greenland, but guys in Greenland, take care and stay strong. I understand that if United States of America decides to take your land by force, they will do it. Because the population of Greenland is very slow, but nevertheless, those people, they're proud to be Greenlanders, and Greenland is a part of Denmark. There were many of the protests in Greenland against the visit of J.D. Vance's spouse and some of the officials of the White House to Greenland. Unofficial visit, they say. And you know what? The visit somehow was cancelled. They say Yankee go home, but Americans don't take it as a personal offense. But we understand that your country is now being controlled by Trump and his delusional, incompetent dream team. And unfortunately, if they tell your army to go to Greenland, your army will go to Greenland to fight against those guys. Well, I guess there will be no like heavy fights, but definitely it will be the occupation which will destroy NATO completely. Like NATO will be just a separate European defense organization, and we would understand that America is not our ally at all. But Trump is damn serious about Greenland. So yeah, we have the news that the visit of delegation was cancelled after locals refused to welcome Vance. But you know, if this soft power doesn't work, Trump might use his military. And you know, at the beginning of the year, Trump announced that America will order 40 big icebreakers. But you know, it is like a completely useless story. Well, Russia has those kind of the gigantic icebreakers, which they use for navigation in the Northern Ocean. But in general, they're very limited actually in their capabilities to provide good ways for the commercial transport there. So Russia operates the fleet of 40 icebreakers, but just few of them are nuclear and big one capable to give the way for the commercial ships. The problem here that water on the north is completely frozen during the most part of the year. There are just several of the months then navigation is possible without ice. And sometimes the ice is so thick that even icebreakers cannot penetrate it and go through. So the perspective to use the northern routes for commercial traffic, well, I would say it's absent. Occasionally, yes, it might be, but as much as in warm waters, absolutely no. Plus, for commercial ships, you also have to pay for the icebreaker operation, which is more expensive compared, let's say, to the fee of crossing Panama Channel. Yeah, sometimes the Russian propaganda gives us some of the videos of how they export their natural resources via the northern routes. But it is only happening during the summertime. The logistics, even inside Russia in this territory, is mostly absent. Long time ago, I was speaking with one of the Russian helicopter technicians who operated the Northern Fleet, commercial fleet. And he said to me that the winter there comes very fast and they may even stag there, because there are no more way outs from their villages, no more roads, everything covered by snow and nothing can go through. Just some special winter all-terrain vehicles, but even they cost a fortune. So usually they stay in a place where winter got them. And by the way, I filmed a video on my other channel. You may check it out in the video description just below. There's just the trash content. There I discuss the topics which are not related to anything, but nevertheless I filmed a video about Russians who were trapped in Kotelny Island for almost 9 months because the helicopter broke down and Russia couldn't find the helicopter. There is the small Russian military base and one of the soldiers complained about it, that he wanted to go home, but instead Russian command tried to send him to Ukraine but couldn't find a way to send him because he was trapped there. The story is like tragic comedy of the realities in Russia and Russian army. So even with this island, which is not that far away from the mainland, Russia has huge problems with logistics. They all depend on helicopters, but helicopters break down. I'm telling you that because I think that the perspective for Russian army to definitely conquer Arctica, well, it is absent, as well as the perspective for the robust commercial vessel operation. It is all about logistics in very, very bad environmental conditions. So the only reason are some of those resources which you may find in Arctica. But at the same time, taking those resources out in Arctic conditions would cost you a lot. Again, because of the very harsh environmental conditions. And you know, guess what? China decided to go the other way. They went to Africa, expanding their influence. Same oil, same rare earth minerals, but China gets them and transport very close, using good, reliable, warm waters of the Indian Ocean. And unfortunately, with closing the programs for Africa humanitarian support, like USAID and some others, China will expand its influence even more to that region. So I don't agree that the future is out there in Arctica. The future is in a way in Africa if we speak about the natural resources. And China has here a tremendous influence. Not everywhere, but in many of the countries. Guys, this video fragment is very interesting just for you to understand how Elon Musk thinks. Let's watch it.
You know, a lot is coming your way, but sometimes you say stuff or post stuff that gets attention. You give it out, in other words. Democratic Arizona Senator Mark Kelly posted on X about his trip to Ukraine to push for continuing to send U.S. weapons and support there, and you posted that he was a traitor. Well, why do that?
Well, I think somebody should care about the interests of the United States above the interests of another country. And sure. If they don't, they're a traitor.
Yeah, but he's a decorated veteran, a former astronaut, a sitting U.S. senator.
It doesn't mean it's okay for him to put the interests of another country above America.
Obviously, there are some Republicans who think supporting Ukraine is the right thing still, but there is a battle back and forth about how do you think it comes to an end?
I think there will be a negotiated peace, and the thing that we should be concerned about is we should have empathy for the thousands of people that are dying every day in trenches, for no movement in the lines. So the borders remain the same. For the past 2 years, thousands of people have died every week for nothing. For what? And I take great offense at those who put the appearance of goodness over the reality of it, those who virtue signal and say, oh, we can't give in to Russia, but have no solution to stopping thousands of kids dying every day. They just want that to continue forever. I have contempt for such people. I don't want to make that clear.
Yeah. So you're optimistic.
Because they're virtue signaling, and their lack of a solution means that kids don't have a father. It means that parents lost a son. For what?
So Elon Musk here appeals to your humanity. People are dying, so we should stop it. By the way, the same rhetorics we might hear from Donald Trump himself. He stated, okay, we should negotiate, stop the war right now. By the way, Ukraine agrees on that, without any demands for the Russian side. Just stop it for at least 30 days and we'll see, maybe we'll extend it. In the air, on water, on the ground, let's stop this war. Let's announce a ceasefire and follow it. But you know what Putin replies. And yes, unfortunately, Ukraine has losses. Civilians, military losing their lives, but it's not for nothing, as Elon Musk says. Our brave warriors and soldiers are out there to protect Ukraine as a country. It is normal that if someone attacks you, you defend yourself. If someone attacks the United States of America, people will defend United States of America. And whoever says that that war is for nothing, that United States should just let enemy to take the territories, will be the same guy as Elon Musk. War is terrible. War should never ever happen. But Ukraine is not guilty for defending itself. It was the unprovoked, full-scale aggression of the Russian army against Ukraine. And the proposal of Elon Musk is to stop the resistance, to let Russia to occupy Ukraine. Russia will not stop in Donetsk, Kherson, Zaporizhia. No, they want more, and that is why they attack Kiev, in intention to replace Zelensky, Ukrainian government, and to put the puppet regime of Russia, probably with Medvedchuk, who is the close friend of Putin. And the occupation of Ukraine by Russia doesn't mean that there will be no losses for Ukraine. No, Russia will implement their own repressions. They will jail and torture Ukrainian people, mostly Ukrainian patriots. Remember what Russians did in Bucha. Against civilians in Bucha, we have the clear evidence of the Russian war crimes, but it happened not in Bucha alone. There were similar stories elsewhere. So Elon Musk is the total delusional expert who says that Ukraine should stop resistance. And believe me guys, supporting Ukraine is also a national interest of the United States of America. If United States gives up its allies, the meaning itself for United States will absolutely shrink. Alright, there was the meeting of the big European coalition for the security of Ukraine and Europe. Everyone understands now that United States will abandon Europe if something big and terrible happens. Well, at least there are great chances for that scenario, so Europe is looking to reinforce itself. And the main role here plays Ukraine, because Ukraine has the biggest army in Europe and it has the military experience, and moreover, it holds Russia on its territory, leaving Russia just with limited tools to try to attack European countries. But still, there is the possibility for Russia to attack Europe in the coming years, because Putin also understands that Donald Trump is like a green light for him. Go and do whatever you want, I'll not protect them. And Elon Musk also would tell the same stuff as he tells for Ukraine. Estonia, Latvia, it's not about United States. Those who try to protect those countries, well, those are just traitors for United States of America. Those are the absolute delusional ideas, and they would lead to the rise of dictatorships around the world. So China will attack Taiwan, North Korea in that case may start something against South Korea, and so on. So luckily Europe is waking up little by little, and Ukraine will receive enough military support in the coming years, enough to keep its sovereignty. But in the variant where United States of America cancels the military support of Ukraine, Russia would obviously take more ground. But at the same time, the Wall Street Journal says that still there is no common conclusion of how to deploy the European troops in Ukraine. Even though some of the European politics are quite optimistic about this variant to deploy their troops, but it is not yet even on the paper and negotiations are ongoing. We have different signals coming. Some of them are positive, some of them are negative. Wow guys, we have a huge win here. Trump's administration backs down in legal fight to shatter radio-free Europe. And America American media that spread the Democratic values, and somehow Donald Trump didn't like it. But the American federal court has the other opinion, so they canceled the order of Donald Trump to close that radio. And after it, Trump's administration decided not to block it any longer, but still they're looking for solutions to close and ban that radio. Trump does exactly the same stuff as Putin did when he became the president of Russia, especially if we speak about the freedom of press. An article from Politica: Trump's allies are starting to notice Hexet's growing pile of mistakes. Well, I guess it's not about Hexet personally, it's all about Trump's team in general. They're really incompetent, and judging on the text messages which were shared by Atlantic, leaked information from the American elite exchange, well, they're delusional as they are. They're not like that on the camera only. And Hexet, well, he's a special one. He's one of the most incompetent people out there in the Trump's team. I would say even Tulsi Gabbard is more competent than this guy. There's also some leak placed in internet saying that Hexet has his Mail.ru account, but I cannot prove that it really belongs to Hexet. Mail.ru is basically the Russian government-controlled domain. Maybe it's also an old account, but for American to open Mail.ru, what's the reason? And breaking news while I'm filming this video, it's angles again, my friends. So there is the strike of Ukrainian drones towards the military airfield. Russians report about several of the kabooms, and there is the smoke coming from the ground. And as we know it already with the previous strike, Russia lost 96 of the cruise missiles. It is the awesome result. All of those missiles could be used against Ukraine. The Ukrainian military intelligence again shared the videos of how they used the FPV drones from the drone ships or drone boats in occupied Crimea, hitting, as you see, only military infrastructure. So this Kamaz or Ural, yes, it's Ural, was hit. Here is one of the ships. Well, for the ship you cannot do like lots of the harm with FPV, but still it's good to bite it a little. But the most juicy targets are those radars which Russia uses for their air defense and surveillance. Great, awesome job again done by Ukrainian military intelligence. And now have a question whether Ukraine may continue those strikes on the Russian military after some sort of the Black Sea ceasefire announcement. Well, Russia still launches their Shahed drones to hit Ukraine from Crimea. So I guess that in this case the Russian military is a legitimate target for Ukrainian FPV drones. Turkey protests went viral because of this Pikachu guy running around. Protests in Turkey continue for several days because the mayor of Istanbul was arrested, and he was or is a main competitor of Erdogan, who is a president of Turkey, and Pikachu, I guess, may become a symbol of those protests. I want to stay out from the Turkish politics, guys, and I like Turk people a lot. I visited Turkey many of the times, and they're nice guys there. Yeah, it is really interesting. Adam Kadyrov, a son of Ramzan Kadyrov, got one more medal in his collection. A medal name that was given to him is За боевое отличие, for the outstanding military performance. Well, I agree, just look at this guy with two of the machine guns, golden machine guns. Really outstanding military performance. Fuck, this is so cringe, guys. And my friends, please don't forget to press your huge like to this video. By doing so, you help me a lot. I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time. Guys, stay awesome because you are.